In this video, we're going to talk about a fairly new feature called two-page holdover. What two-page holdover is it allows you to have two active Q stacks on separate pages per playback. So we have a clean show here. I'm going to write a couple Qs. We're just going to grab our spots, put them in a position and a color, then write a Q. We're going to call this look 1. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to a second page. We're going to grab our spots again, put them at full. This time we're going to put an effect on that. And we're going to record this to playback 1 on page number 2. We're going to call this circle. Now previously in MagicQ, if you had brought up playback 1 on page number 1 and then switched to page number 2, you'd end up with a flashing playback that showed you were still only in control of playback 1 on page number 1. Until you release that playback, you would have no control over playback 1 on page 2, meaning you couldn't have two pages active at the same time. What two-page holdover allows you to do is exactly that. So if you go to Setup, make sure you're in View Settings, and then go to Playback. Down towards the bottom, you're going to see a new option that says Playback Holdover Mode. Default will be the old behavior where you can only have one page of playbacks active at a time. If you were to double-click that, you'll see there's a new option in here that says two-page holdover. What this will do now that we've set it to two-page holdover is if we bring up playback 1 on page 1, and then we click to the next page, you'll see down at the bottom there's a little red bar that says playback 1, page 1, look 1 is currently active. This fader no longer affects playback 1 on page 1. Instead, when we bring it up, you'll see that it activates the circle effect, which is playback 1 on page 2, allowing us control over that effect. If we were to go back a page, you'll see that they switch places. Now you see that page 2 circle is on the bottom here, and look 1 is currently on the top. And now the fader is in control of look 1, which is going to do nothing at this moment because the circle is overriding it. If we go back to page 2, we can turn our circle off. Two-page holdover can be used on multiple pages across the 10 faders. So if we wanted to turn on page 1 and page 2 on playback 1, and then we wanted to make two more playbacks on page 3, and then another one on page 1 on playback 2, you'll see that we can have two playbacks active on page 1, one playback active on page 2, and then a second playback on fader number 2 active on page 3. So in theory, you could have 20 playbacks active across up to 40 different pages.